Hi, it's Brittany from the Empurrium. Welcome back to my channel. Today is a special tutorial. It's for the Marathon Society Marathon for the Gabriella, which is a pattern from the Empurrium. It's me. It's mine. So I have a video for it already, but I decided it would be fun to do it as a backpack. So I've got it on. One of my testers made a backpack. It was so cute, and I've seen a couple of them now. So here is my backpack. This is what I decided to do. I have these handles that are sewn in to the seam with the ears, and then they're in between them, and they also are angled a little, so they pretty much follow the ears, so it doesn't create like extra bulk. It's just all in a row. And then we did these little connectors and then some webbing. I do believe I say it in the video, but I'm pretty sure these are 18 inches. I think you could go to 20. And then I think I cut the webbing 20 inches. For an adult, I would do longer. I would probably go at least like 25 inches, and then you could size down from there. This does fit me. I don't have a ton of room, but it also depends on where you like wearing your backpacks. I did not do the side connectors for the crossbody. I wish there was a handle, but I normally put my hanging handles for backpacks in the middle of the straps. With the ears, you kind of run out of options there. So that's maybe the only thing that I wish I did, but she's super cute. So I used Jacob black vinyl from More Me Know, and then this pink cloud vinyl is from More Me Know, and I used my favorite, the hot pink Renew canvas from More Me Know. So all of the hardware, zipper tape, everything is from More Me Know except for the webbing. So yeah, she's so fun. Thank you so much to everyone who is participating in the marathon. If you haven't checked out the other videos, you should definitely do that. I know there are some fun variations of Gabriella's happening, and I can't wait to see them either. So thank you. Enjoy. First, I want to go through what I have prepped already and what I have changed from the regular pattern. So first off, really important, you are not going to mark and cut the connector pieces. Technically you could still put a handle or something there if you wanted, but with the backpack straps, I don't think it's necessary, so I've left that off for the gusset. And I've made all of my center marks, so I have them on my main panels, I have them on the base of the lining. I've already done my zipper pocket for the lining, so I have my lining pieces and gusset. We're going to assemble the lining how it is in the pattern. I have my main zipper with the zipper tabs already on. I've got the tape there. I prepped my ears. I have appliqued the face. And I have put the magnetic snap sides on already. I have stitched the tail on. And then I have my other lining pieces for the flap. Okay. And then these pieces are not in the pattern. I have two ladder locks, two 1-inch rectangles. And then I have two, let's see, what did I cut these at? 18 by 4-inch strap pieces. I maybe could have done 16. I think it would depend if you're making it for a kid or an adult. I think 18 will still work for either because we're going to do adjustable webbing. And then I have a piece that is 7 by 2 inches. This is going to end up being 2 connectors. Actually, probably should have made it longer. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and recut this. We're going to want, I think we're going to want two by 4-inch pieces. I think that's going to be, yeah, Okay, so we'll do two 2x4" pieces for our connectors. I'll just recut that. And then I have some 1" webbing, and we're gonna want some pieces for our straps. I'm going to measure another backpack, and then I'll give you the amount after I cut that. But we're going to prep our straps first. I'm also going to finish my lining. I'm going to assemble it with the opening in the bottom. I've already got the opening in the pocket, but I'll just get that taken care of, so that's completely ready to go once we get there as well. Two 2x4" pieces for our connectors, and then we are going to do 20" pieces of webbing, and this is something that you could cut down if you don't need it to be as long. That's something you can adjust at the very end. So you're going to need those two, and then we are also going to need 2 pieces, 4.5 inches for our ladder locks. Okay, and you can, if you have a better way of doing your connectors and whatnot, like you could take from other patterns. It's a preference. I mean, this is just something I am doing to add on to the pattern. So the ladder locks, these pieces of webbing will go in here at the top, and this is what's going to hold them on, and I'm going to end up stitching them on, I think, to my straps. I've put them into the vinyl before, and it's a little bit difficult, and this vinyl is a bit thicker, so I just don't think it's gonna go over as well if I do it that way. We're gonna want to heat seal the ends of our webbing. Okay. So on these connectors, we are going to tape down the center. You could draw a center marking line if you'd like, and then apply your tape. I was gonna do it all just as one strip. That's why I had them as one piece before, but that's fine. But you're just gonna fold in to the center. And then we will top stitch on the edges. And then the rectangle rings are going to get put on here. And you can stitch right here, or you could rivet. I think it would be cute to rivet. So I will do that before we go further. But for these straps, you're going to want to draw a line down the center, and oh, there it is. And then we will draw this line down the center and clip. Yeah. This vinyl is hard to mark on. So you'll have to probably take my word for it because I don't think you'll be able to see the line. But I'm just gonna clip these. I'm gonna fold in and then fold again, and I'll come back once I have that all clipped together on both. I have the straps clipped together, and I also put the rivets on the connectors. So we're just going to stitch around these straps. I definitely would have stitched the webbing into these, but like I said, this vinyl is a little bit on the thicker side, and wrapping it around the webbing would have been a bit much. I thought about doing like a single fold with the vinyl and then doing like one layer of webbing, and I think that would have been fun too. I really think that there are so many different options of how you could do this, and it's definitely gonna come down to what your preference is. And I'm really debating trying a couple myself because I have more Gabriellas that I want to make for CatCon, and I think it would be fun to have more backpack versions. So I think I will try it out some more too. Okay, so we have these sewn together now, and the end that has my back stitch, I'm gonna make that be the end that'll get sewn into the bag. So this other end is going to be where I'm going to stitch on my webbing. So I have the seam on the outside of both of these, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my webbing like so. It's gonna create a lot of layers. Maybe I should just do this. Okay, like this. That's how I'm folding it. And I'm going to lay it on top here. And this is pretty thick. Just be aware. So doing that again. And you'll want to make sure that they're even. Or, you know what? I don't know if this will work with this webbing or vinyl. Let's see. We might not be able to do it. Does it work? Yeah, it is pretty thick. Which way would it need to go? This is part of this whole experimenting process. I think it would be nice to have it like this, but getting the webbing through here. Oh, it is possible. Okay, so this is how I feel like this might be too much and kind of like bulky right there. Okay, so this is what this will look like. And I think I'm going to do this. Okay, so I wasted a little bit of webbing, but that's okay. This is all about improvising today. Okay, so what we're gonna have to do is see right here. So I will rivet this. And then I'm going to match this for both, and then I'll set the rivets and I'll be back. I riveted the straps onto the ladder locks. I think we're good. So what we're going to work on now is the entire back of the bag. So we have our main panel, the straps, the connectors, we have our ears, our main zipper, the exterior and lining top flap, exterior lining of the bottom of the flap, and then we have our two zipper flap lining pieces. So what we need to do now is mark the center of the back, the top of the bottom of the flap. Now, normally these ears get placed a little bit within an inch of the center, but we have to put these backpack straps in. So I kind of want them to angle a tiny bit. So I basically want it to like look like this. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to put the backpack straps in and then put the ears right outside of it. If you're trying to put them so that they're like layered together, it's gonna be way too much. Also, if you're laying everything down on this piece, you need the ears to be backwards so that when everything's flipped up, they stand up that way because you want them to face the front of the bag. So, oh, I also have this. Yeah, okay. Let me think real quick. Okay, I want this to come out of the seam just like this, so I am going to lay it down this way. And like I said, I want mine to angle a teeny tiny bit. Since they're so close to the center, normally I have straps spread apart a little with a little hanging loop, but these are not going to be. So let's just angle them in a tiny bit. That way it will separate them a little bit. And then we're going to take the ears, and I want to put it pretty much right in there. Yes, okay. So I'm just literally lining those right so that they're butting up to the straps. Okay, so when this gets flipped up and top stitched down, that's what this is all going to look like. And then my straps are going to be the right way. Okay, so now we can take the top flap, ignore all the cat hair, it comes free here. And we're going to line that up right sides together. And just clip everything together. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Everything looks good. And then we're going to stitch this together, and I am going to backstitch a little bit. Also, hang on. Okay, yes, we have, our ears look right. This is something I feel like you have to triple check. Okay, the ears aren't gonna have any stress on them, so I'm not going to backstitch right there, but I am going to give a backstitch over those straps. Okay, so now that that is stitched together, the flap comes down, but the top stitch happens here. That helps the ears stand up. So you definitely don't want to skip this top stitch. Okay, so there is a bit of bulk here, so just be aware of that, but it looks really good. So this flips down, those stand up. Okay. Now I'm going to assemble the rest of the zipper flap per the pattern, and I'll come back once that is ready to be sewn onto the back panel. I finished the full flap. I turned it and smoothed it out, and then I made sure that it is sitting straight and even and all that good stuff, and we are going to stitch it on. And this is the same as the pattern. Most of what we're doing now is the same, but we're gonna add the connectors for the strap also. And I already have the lining assembled, and I have the other half of the exterior assembled. So it is almost done. All right, definitely do not forget, you've got to make sure that you do not stitch past this mark that you make. That is still extremely important for this one. Okay, and this is the way I like stitching this flap on. I go from the bottom each time. For me, it just works a little bit better and is easier getting up to the marking. But you do have to kind of maneuver it and make sure that it is still straight. You do not want it to become crooked. Alright, and I can see my mark. Okay, and then we are going to rivet, but before I do that, I will show you how I'm going to place these connectors. Alright, I can undo these clips now. I just like leaving them on there for a moment to keep that flap smooth. So these connectors are going to go down at the bottom, but because we have all this bulk here, we do not want them to be in that same spot. It's going to be too much. So we will come up some. So you have your seam allowance to keep in mind. I'm going to come up right about here. And then you can measure or eyeball. Let's see, how much did I have that hanging off there? Sometimes if you stand up, you can see a little bit better what you're doing. And I am just eyeballing this. Okay, so you can kind of tell where they sit on the flap also, but I'm going to baste these on. I think that's right. Maybe I can tell from the back too. I think it looks pretty good. Oh, you know what? We have to move this in because that rivet is going to be too close. All right. So I'll stitch this one on and then look. Okay. So I just need this to come in more, right? Yes. So much second guessing. All right. I'll baste this one on also, and then I will punch my holes and set my rivets, and then we'll be ready for the final assembly. Time for our final assembly. So this is now our completed back panel. Like I said, I have the front panel already sewn on to the exterior gusset, and then I have the lining fully ready to go. So we are almost there. Going to just fold those straps up out of my way, and then we are going to start clipping the back exterior to the gusset. Now, this is thick. You definitely want to pick materials that your machine will agree with. Let's see. Okay. Stapler is still okay with it. So you're just going to put this gusset on just like you would normally. I'm gonna do the bottom, and then, sorry, I'm trying to keep this where you can see it on the camera, but I do normally set it in my lap for this step. And the staples help hold these pieces with the shape that this gusset is right here. Okay, and then when we get closer to here, I'm just gonna pop a clip on the side of each strap, and then we need to snip into our gusset. You just don't want to snip any of those stitches. Okay. I just don't think I can staple over that, so as long as we can get the rest, we are golden. Perfect. And then we can go ahead and stitch this all together. I like always doing the front panel first because that's what you see at the front of the bag. And for me, I think doing it first is easier because if you do this back panel first, you have a lot going on. Whereas if you do the front, you can just focus on only having that. I know someone said, I think it might have been Molly, she said she likes doing the back first because it's like a practice run. And I get that, but I just feel like putting all of this that I'm like dealing with right now on and then doing the front, it would just be all over the place. I don't know. So what is your preference, I guess? Like, how many people like doing it the opposite way I do? And that's something too, I think it's so cool that we can all adapt and do things differently and do what works best for us individually. So just take your time. There's a lot going on. Make sure your hardware is not sticking out. And then we take our staples out. You can trim down those connectors if you want. I'm going to leave mine, but you do want to trim down some of this bulk in the curve, just whatever you can. That's going to help the curve turn out better. All right, and then what we need to do to assemble the rest of the bag is fold all of this in. So you want to fold that all down and out of the way. Make sure it is not going to get caught. And then you're going to put the lining in. And then the rest of this is just like the rest of the pattern for finishing it. And I like doing this on my cylinder arm, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stitch around here, and then when I birth the bag, I will close the bottom of the lining through the pocket, and then I'll close the pocket, and then I will do my final top stitch. After that, we can finish up the straps and finish the bag. Another thing, this is in my regular pattern, but I have found that stapling this final step is really helpful, because with this, like, this is so much bulk that you're dealing with. Not sewing bulk, but oh my gosh, it's in the way bulk. Stapling really helps everything stay so that it doesn't shift. When I was testing the pattern, I had one I had to completely take apart because it all shifted. But like I said, I'm going to get this all finished up, and then we will finish the straps and finish the bag. Time to finish the Gabriella backpack. All right, so we have everything top stitched and finished up. So we just need to do the straps. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to attach the straps here at the rectangle ring first, and I'm going to fold maybe about 3/4 of an inch down, and then fold that over, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. And you want these to be as even as possible. Oh. And you want those ends sealed. Okay. And then you can go ahead and eyeball and see where we're at. And then you can kind of see, yeah, those look pretty even. And then we'll stitch those down. So I'm going to do 2 rows of stitches. If you want, you could switch your thread color if your webbing is different like mine, but just going to go ahead and go with it. And then you'll want to clean up all of this. I don't like riveting webbing. For me, it's always really hard to punch holes through the webbing, and it just never looks right when I do it. Did I run out of bobbin? I definitely did. Okay, well, I'm gonna do the same thing there, and I'll be back. Once you have those ends sewn to the rectangles, you want to make sure you grab the right side of your strap, and then you want to make sure that the webbing isn't twisted, and you're going to go up through this top and then down through the bottom, and that keeps it locked. Do that on both sides. And then from here, if you want to check the length of the straps, like depending on if you're making it for a kid or an adult, you can do so. I think I'm going to be okay. If not, I can fix it. But what I like to do for this now is fold and fold the webbing, and then just do a stitch across that. And then try to replicate that again on the next side. And this is going to keep the webbing from coming out of the ladder lock. You don't have to do this, but it could come out and it'd need to be threaded back on. So I would suggest doing something to make sure it stays on. And then just clean that up. You could put little woven labels there. So see, now it can't come out. And they're pretty much locked in there. It's so cute. I'm so excited. I hope you enjoyed my Gabriella backpack tutorial. Make sure you check out the rest of the marathon. I'm so excited that we got to do the Gabriella for the marathon. So thank you everyone for participating. I'm honored. I hope you have a great day. Bye.